Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now let us recap UFC Fight Night Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos so that we can get to UFC 292 content for the rest of the week, because despite the fights that have fallen off that card, I'm still unbelievably excited, especially for that main event. Now, the first half of last night's card was actually pretty good. There were a ton of finishes. Now, later on in the night, it got a little bit boring, a little bit monotonous, but regardless, we are going to go over every single fight, starting with the first fight of the night, working our way up. As usual, before we get into it, like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's start with the first fight of the night. Juliana Miller, my bad dude, versus Luana Santos. Now, I picked Luana Santos to beat Juliana Miller because I said Juliana Miller is horrible. Her picture on the UFC's website is insane. I don't know the amount of Photoshop or whether or not she has an unbelievable amount of makeup on her face, but she does sometimes look like she's packing around extra chromosomes. Luana Santos, I said she would get a submission. She did not do that, but I did say that Juliana Miller would not be able to grapple with her nor stand on the feet. Both of those things were true. Luana Santos ended up getting a first-round TKO. Good performance by her. Now, also, I will say, her screams after the fact drove me insane, and it was very reminiscent of Eddie Alvarez's wife, and I honestly had to mute my TV just until she was gone and out of the octagon. But it was a great performance by her. She's very young. She looked phenomenal, and I feel as though had it actually made its way to the ground, she would have absolutely dominated there as well. So moving on up the card, my kitty is climbing up my leg. Damone Baba Blackshear versus Jose Johnson. Now, I actually said Damone Blackshear would get a submission. I did not call the round, but he got it early on. Jose Johnson, credit to him taking this fight on short notice, but he didn't have a whole lot for Damone Blackshear. Damone Blackshear looked phenomenal last night, took very little damage, and being an absolute G, is trying to step up in placement of Cody Garbrandt against Mario Bautista, which would be absolutely phenomenal if he were to take a fight a week after he just got a first-round submission. Now, moving on up the card to Jacqueline AMORIM versus Montserrat Conejo Ruiz. Okay, now I tried and went with a big underdog pick here in Montserrat Conejo Ruiz, and I was wrong, okay? Jacqueline AMORIM looked very good. She was absolutely dominant on the ground. Ruiz had essentially nothing for her. Although Ruiz, credit to her, dude, for she was almost unsubmittable. You know what I mean? Some of the arm bars she was in, very deep, looked, vast majority of people would have tapped. I think women just have crazy dexterity in their joints. It was insane to see. She ended up getting stopped in the third round due to a TKO on the ground. Good ground and pound from Jacqueline AMORIM, showing some improvements in her cardiovascular as well. As they talked about, she said that, you know, I have to realize that I'm not going to finish everybody in the first round. This is the UFC. So, good performance by her as well. Moving on up the card to Josh Parisian versus Martin Buday. Now, I picked Martin Buday to win, and I said I hoped that there would be a finish so we didn't have to get these two in the third round, as it would have been pretty boring, I would imagine. They would have both been gassed. Martin Buday, as I said also in my picks video, makes it a dogfight, makes it dirty, makes it very sloppy looking, but he's very effective with it. He beat the fucking shit out of Josh Parisian, who had essentially nothing for him also, and then ended up getting the submission in round number 1. And I thought the timing was beautiful, because I don't know who that Minty Betts person is. However, she's fucking garbage. She took the over 2.5 rounds at a minus 150 with these guys. Like, it was just hilarious to her come on saying that, and then Martin Buday goes out there and finishes Josh Parisian in the first round. It was pretty funny. Anyways, good performance by Martin Buday. First finish in the UFC, first finish since his contender fight. And my cat is fucking around. Either way, dude, moving on. Great performance by Martin Buday, pardon me. Okay, Francis Marshall versus Isaac Dulgarian. Now, I picked against Isaac Dulgarian, and to be fair, he was an underdog. He looked phenomenal, though, and I said that it was going to be hard for me to pick him anyways, because he had been fighting guys with horrible records, very unexperienced, and while it's easy to look dominant and finish guys like that, it's a different thing when you move up in competition. You start facing guys in the UFC. Francis Marshall got completely dominated, split open, cut up, fucked up completely. First round finish, incredible. The dude's living in a goddamn RV. He didn't get a performance bonus, which is unfortunate for him, but I'm sure that his first UFC check, with the win bonus included, did make a difference. Great performance by Isaac Dulgarian. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, man. He was very dominant. That took him down with relative ease. And once he got him down, that was basically it. He wasn't getting back up, and it was phenomenal. Moving on up the card to Terrence McKinney versus Mike Breeden. Now Terrence McKinney bouncing back against Mike Breeden, who looked as though he couldn't move, or I don't know what was going on. But credit to Terrence McKinney, that was a great performance. He just brushed him as he usually does. What are you doing, cat? Stop with that. That's very noisy. And rushed him as most of his finishes are, and got him out of there early on. 1 minute and 25 seconds, right? 85 seconds into the first round, and he got him out of there. The knees look good. His straight punches look good. He actually looked a little more defensively responsible than he usually does, but I don't know if it was just because his opponent wasn't really doing a whole lot back. But great job by Terrence McKinney to get a bounce back. Now, he was supposed to win that fight. He was a nearly minus 300. So, and as I said in the picks video, this dude, Mike Breeden, was also on a pretty bad losing skid, but the guys that he's losing to are not the kind of guys that Terrence McKinney is losing to. Moving on up the card to JP Bays, apparently, my bad, versus Marcus McGhee. I tried to pick the underdog here in JP Bays. I thought he would look good moving up a weight class. You fucking brat, dude. Marcus McGhee starched him. Great performance. This dude's legit, regardless of how old he looks, okay? That was a very good performance. Phenomenal victory for him. 2 in a row in the UFC, 2 finishes. So it really is like Daniel Cormier said something, you know, you were just waiting for your chance. You knew you were good enough. You just needed the opportunity. He got it, and he made the absolute most of it. So credit to him for, you know, being able to step up to the big show and putting on performances the way that he is doing. It's very impressive. First submitting Journey Newsom, who he was an underdog against, and then this time comes in a massive favorite and shows us why. So credit to him. I probably won't be picking against him moving forward, as he has now proven himself multiple times over. Moving up the card, we're at the main card now. Josh FREMD versus Jamie Pickett. The fucking weight misser Josh FREMD, trying to pretend like he's so ashamed and upset with himself and all this bullshit in the fucking post-fight press conference drove me crazy. You dirtbag. Cut the fucking weight or move up. Do you know what I mean? He's too big. He's simply too big. He's a giant middleweight. Giant. You know what I mean? I wanted Jamie Pickett to fuck him up, but he wasn't able to. Josh FREMD, not only, though, did he miss weight, he made this an extremely boring affair. This was the first fight, the first decision on the card, if I'm not mistaken, and it was pretty boring. He was pushing him up against the cage for a lot of it, not really doing a whole lot of damage. It was a little frustrating to watch, especially considering dude comes in 3 fucking pounds overweight. Like, hey, do something. You know what I mean? Anyways, good performance by him, I guess, but you missed weight, so fuck off. Moving up the card to AJ Dobson versus NCHUKWEE. I was close, guys. I just added an N sound in there because there's an N before the CH, but it's NCHUKWEE. So I picked AJ Dobson to win against the guy who missed weight, and again, in NCHUKWEE, who missed weight even worse than Josh FREMD, and he did just that. It was a great performance. He put on a clinic. You know, the first round was a little iffy for him. NCHUKWEE was landing some big leg kicks, all of them very telegraphed. His kias or whatever he was doing were a little annoying. I started to turn the volume down just a couple minutes in, but that was essentially all he was able to land. He wasn't landing with the hands. AJ Dobson was very defensively responsible. The way he was moving, rolling with shots, getting his head out of the way. He would only leap in and use the hands when he felt it was safe to do so, and then he would get the fuck out of there. His kicks are very quick with very little telegraph, especially compared to NCHUKWEE's kicks. The leg kicks, not just that, though, little switch kicks to the head that he would throw from time to time. None of them really landed cleanly, but they were very quick, very snappy, and very little telegraph. It was a great performance by him. I was glad to see at least one of the weight missers lost their fight. Hey, cat, stop with that. Stop, please. That's noisy. Anyways, moving up the card to Polyana Viana versus Iceman Lucindo. I picked Lucindo to win. I'll be honest, though. After her walkout, I wanted her to fucking lose. That shit drove me crazy. Hey, bitch, hurry the fuck up. You know what I mean? That was brutal. You have not earned that shit yet. Kamaru Usman, as much as I don't like the guy, earned his slow walkouts. And his walkouts are about as long as hers were, only he's walking through an entire arena. I am gonna... walking through an entire arena, okay? And she just hasn't earned that shit yet. Now, that was a good performance by her. She was a pretty large favorite, though, so she was kind of supposed to win. The walkout drove me crazy, but I did get the pick right. She ended up submitting Polyana Viana in the second round, after a relatively boring 7 minutes or so. Just immediately jumped on an arm triangle out of nowhere, got it. Good performance by her. She got performance of the night, which I'm going to be honest, that pisses me off, dude, that she got performance of the night. You know what, dude? Let's fucking bitch about some stuff, because I don't like being negative all the time, but sometimes I do. Francis Marshall versus Isaac Dulgarian. Dude's living in a goddamn RV. Dude comes in against a UFC level featherweight and does what he does in his debut when he's only got a handful of professional fights. You give the performance bonus to Iceman Lucindo, who took 43 minutes to get to the fucking octagon and then did nothing for 6.5 minutes before jumping on an arm triangle against a girl she was supposed to beat. Fuck out of here, dude. Are you kidding me? That actually drives me crazy. I hope that Dulgarian got taken care of, you know, by Dana White in another way, but that's so stupid, man. Anyways, moving up the card, Khalil Roundtree versus Chris Daukaus. She keeps finding shit to be loud with, and that's annoying. Peach, can you stop? Anyways, Khalil Roundtree Jr. versus Chris Daukaus. Khalil Roundtree Jr. killed a guy last night. Chris Daukaus should probably retire, go back to being a police officer. That was a great performance by Khalil Roundtree. I will say I was a little concerned, because when Bruce Buffer was calling out their names, Khalil Roundtree Jr. would not stop gyrating. Bro was like a fucking pocket pussy or something. He was like bouncing up and down. His tits are hopping up and down. He was literally vibrating. And I thought, what the fuck? And then when Bruce Buffer stopped, like, called his name, you know what I mean, did the whole intro, I thought, oh, he's going to stop now. But then when the camera panned back and forth to Kyle Daukaus and Khalil Roundtree Jr. getting ready to fight, he was still doing it. And I thought, what the fuck? And then he goes in the cage and he's still doing it. Gyrating all over the place. Couldn't stop. And then pulls out a first round KO over Chris Daukaus with a beautiful left hand that he led with. He kind of feinted off with the lead hand, his right hand a little bit. He kind of just threw it out of the way there and then went straight down the pipe. Clipped him perfectly on the chin, put him down, and that was a wrap. That was savage. Khalil Roundtree Jr., dude, when he's on, he is on, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere fucking near him because that dude hits hard as fucking all get out. Chris Daukaus, moving weight classes didn't matter. I didn't think it was gonna matter, but you know what I mean? He looked better physically, sure. Still a little flabby. You see huge stretch marks and extra skin and things like that. He was trying to tuck it in his shorts, but, you know, it's not enough. You can't, I don't know, man. He looked quick. He looked all right, but it's not enough. Khalil Roundtree Jr. starched him. Anyways, great performance by him. Moving up the card, too. Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. Now, I did pretty decent on picks. I've actually been doing very decent these last few cards, like 11-2, 9-3, things like this. I think I went 9-4 last night. I would have been 10-3 had this decision gone my way. I picked Hakeem Dawodu to win. I thought he would get a finish, or potentially get a finish, but I'm gonna say this. I don't know if this is a hot take or what. I don't necessarily think that was a robbery. I just don't. And actually, I think I disagree with a lot of people, maybe not in the sense that it's not a robbery, but I think that round one is pretty clear Hakeem Dawodu. This is just my opinion. I'm not shitting on you if you have a different opinion, and I'll hear you out if you put it in the comment sections as to why you have a different opinion than me. I thought Hakeem Dawodu won round one. Cub Swanson landed a couple good shots at the end, or at the beginning of round one, in the very first minute. You know what I mean? A big step in right hand, and then I think he landed that same step in right hand maybe a few seconds later. The rest of the round, however, was Hakeem Dawodu beating Cub Swanson's legs, landing decent counter shots in the pocket. Now, Cub would land a couple of his own, but Hakeem Dawodu's were absolutely harder. And then towards the end of the round, I think it was somewhere in the last minute, maybe even the last 30 seconds, Hakeem Dawodu busted Cub Swanson's nose completely. Like, it was leaking incredibly, and the cut man even, who was applying pressure with the towel, you know what I mean, doing the whole deal, and as soon as he took that towel off Cub Swanson's nose, you could just see it pouring out again. So in my opinion, he did more damage. I understand that he looked like he might have gotten wobbled at the beginning from one of those opening shots, but it wasn't enough that he didn't get rocked. He didn't almost get he didn't get dropped, not rocked. He didn't get dropped. He didn't almost get dropped. He kind of immediately went back to it. So it wasn't like a horrible rocking. And then I thought he did more damage with those leg kicks. which were on point for the most part, jabs, and he busted Cub Swanson's nose up. I think it was with a counter left hook, but I'm not totally mistaken. Now, round 2, I think, could actually go to Cub Swanson, because they were very, very even on, I swear to God, dude, very even on strikes in round 2. Cub Swanson landed 4 more total strikes. Hakeem Dawodu landed 1 more significant strike, but when they were in the clinch, and this is what really pissed me off actually about Hakeem Dawodu's performance, when they were in the clinch, Cub Swanson was landing big body shots, big uppercuts as soon as Hakeem Dawodu initiated. And then he ended up rocking him at the end of round 2. So I thought that round 2 very evenly matched in the, like, out at range in the significant striking realm. Once they got to the clinch, Cub Swanson, in my opinion, landed the better shots in the clinch, and then, as I said, kind of rocked him at the end of round 2. Round 3, Hakeem Dawodu landed a lot more shots overall, but I feel as though Cub Swanson did a little bit more damage. You know what I mean? He got outlanded by 11 insignificant strikes in that 3rd round. I would have to rewatch the 3rd round. I tried to rewatch the fight again last night, and round 1 was close. So I guess if you gave Cub round 1 and round 2, or I feel as though a lot of people were giving him round 3, despite that actually being the widest margin in terms of significant strikes in favor of Hakeem Dawodu. But I will say this, whether or not you think it was a robbery doesn't really matter to me. Hakeem Dawodu, fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Stop clinching this dude. You were landing big shots on the... I don't get it, man. He's supposed to be this, like, fucking polished off striker. You're fighting a dude who's almost 40 at featherweight, and you can't put him away? We've seen him get finished multiple times in his last few fights. He's 3-9 before this, 3-6 in his last 9 before this fight, against a guy who's essentially in his athletic prime and hasn't taken nearly the fucking amount of damage as Cub Swanson's taken, is more technically sound overall. And I understand that Cub Swanson's got a tricky style. It's a little awkward, maybe a little difficult to deal with, but, like, fucking, dude, stop clinching him. Do you know what I mean? If you want to make it apparent that you did more damage, then do more fucking damage. Do you know what I mean? And credit to Cub Swanson for clapping this shit, clapping for him, being honest with himself, saying, I don't think I won it. Now, he in the post-fight press conference said that his corner told him he won round 1, pardon me. It was way closer than I feel the commentators were making it, and that's frustrating to me when that shit happens. You know, I did initially think that Hakeem Dawodu probably should have gotten the nod, but when I went back and rewatched it, round 2 was a lot closer than I thought it was. Round 1 was a lot closer than I thought it was, although I did score it for Hakeem. Round 3, I would want to go back and take a second look at, because for me, that would be the deciding round. But fucking do more, dude. Do you know what I mean? I don't, like, what, and I don't mean just because they're both fucking black. But Hakeem Dawodu kind of starting to remind me of, like, an Angela Hill, where, yes, some of the split decisions she lost probably absolutely should have gone her way. Do you know what I mean? Some of them, she did barely anything and then was upset about it. And it's like, well, if neither of you do fuck all, it's really hard for the judges to score. Now, this wasn't really the case that neither of them did fuck all, but I feel as though Hakeem Dawodu could have done a hell of a lot more. And I understand that I'm just a guy in front of my computer talking about it, but it was really frustrating to watch a young guy in his athletic prime who is supposed to be this polished striker, who's gotten finishes, fight a 40-year-old almost Cub Swanson who's taken a ton of damage at featherweight, bro. Like, get real. Come on. Do more if you're gonna be all butthurt and upset about the decision. You know what I mean? So I picked Hakeem Dawodu to win. I could be claiming I got fucked, but I don't necessarily think so. It's a little... I think it's more ambiguous than people are giving it credit for, and I think that the commentators seriously swayed everybody's opinion. And all the tweets that they show up on the screen of people who are spectators and scoring as a spectator, it's different. You need to sit down, mute it, and really pay attention. And there's even moments where, and I know that the judges don't get this, so it's not really fair that we get to use it after the fact. But when you, like, rewind and rewatch certain moments, you can tell shit didn't land the way you thought it did, or shit did land more than you thought it did. So, for instance, and this is in favor of Hakeem Dawodu, but at the beginning of round number 2, he threw a spinning back kick to Cub Swanson. And it sounded pretty good. And I thought, oh yeah, that landed. Cub went like this, as if it went off his arm. I went back, and when I was rewatching it, I rewinded it and paused it right on the moment. That kick landed. It did not get blocked by his forearm. That kick landed. So, you know, there's moments like that where it's tricky. But I did kind of think Hakeem won in the moment. After the fact, it was a lot closer than I think people are giving it credit for. I thought Cub could have won round 2. And then all you got to do is find another round for him after that. And you know what I mean? It's not an insane decision, but it is what it is. Moving up the card to the main event, Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos. I picked Vicente Luque to win. I said I wasn't sure if he would be able to finish RDA. RDA is a tough guy to finish. I said if he did, it would probably be by TKO, pardon me, because Vicente Luque can hit relatively hard. Instead of striking, he basically out RDA'd RDA. It was a very impressive performance. Do you know what I mean? It was a good job by Vicente Luque. Some of the rounds were pretty close in terms of significant strikes and things like that. After round 1, though, Vicente Luque essentially took over and was able to out-grapple, out-wrestle, and out-strike Rafael dos Anjos. So that was a great performance, and one where he didn't take a whole lot of damage, which I think was an important thing considering he just came off of a brain bleed. Do you know what I mean? So he fought smarter. And that was a good performance, man. I don't even have much to say about it. I just spent all my fucking breath on that last fight, but you know, Vicente Luque looked good, man. Rafael dos Anjos is a little older. I actually said in my picks video that I thought size would be a massive factor in this one because RDA is incredible when he's grappling guys that are like around his size, but then when you see him fight guys that are good at grappling who are a lot bigger than him, he struggles. And to be fair, he should. Do you know what I mean? If you're fighting a guy who's basically the same skill level as you, only he's got 20 pounds on you, that's when weight actually matters. Do you know what I mean? So like when he's fighting a Michael Chiesa, and years ago, not current Michael Chiesa. So it was a good performance by Vicente Luque. It was a little surprising, honestly. I was getting a little annoyed, actually, at Paul Felder, getting mad at people clinching and shit. Like, I get it, dude. You like to see wars, but fuck off, hey? You know what I mean? The dude's coming off of a brain hemorrhage. Maybe he doesn't want to take a whole lot of damage, so instead of striking at range with Rafael dos Anjos, he decided I'm going to out RDA. Out grapple him, out wrestle him, beat him up where I can in the clinch, take him down, do shit like this. Yeah, some of the grappling exchanges were pretty fun to watch. I didn't, you know, while it might not have been the most entertaining fight, I understood exactly. If there's a guy who's got a fucking excuse for fighting safe, it's Vicente Luque, okay? So, overall, that was a good performance by him. Credit to him coming back after something like that had to be terrifying. It's got to be in the back of your head somewhere that, fuck, if I get hit. Do you know what I mean? Something could go wrong. And credit to RDA for... RDA is the fucking man, dude. He will fight you. He doesn't care how big you are. He's consistently fighting guys across 2 different weight classes. And, you know, he has success against welterweights also. So, dude's a stud, man. And it was a pretty good fight. But great performance by Vicente Luque. Bouncing back after 2 straight losses and a horrible, potentially career-ending injury, to be honest. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on last night's fights. UFC 292 is this Saturday, and I can't fucking wait. So, stay tuned. Be putting out a bunch of UFC 292 related content later on in the week. Have a good one. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.